Annyeongbuzz! Welcome back to the channel where we dive into the real stories behind the headlines in Korean entertainment. Today we're talking about a very sensitive and developing situation involving the girl group Madyne, specifically member Suhye, and the growing concerns surrounding their agency, 143 Entertainment. So let's get into it. On May 14th, 143 Entertainment officially announced that Suhye will be suspending her activities temporarily due to what they're calling personal circumstances. Now, this kind of statement is pretty common in the K-pop world. We've seen agencies release similar announcements before when idols are going through something private or facing mental health challenges. But what makes this different is the timing and the context. The statement itself was simple. They said Suhye is taking a break for now, and that it was a decision made so she could eventually meet fans again in good spirits. They emphasized that she'll be resting and that they're supporting her fully during this time. On the surface, it sounds supportive, like the agency is protecting her well-being, which is always the priority. And this is where I want to hear from you guys, are you buying it? Because this comes right after a serious allegation made by former member Gaeun. You remember Gaeun, right? She left the group last November, supposedly for health reasons. But then, 5 months later, she drops a bombshell. She holds a press conference and accuses the CEO of 143 Entertainment of sexually harassing her back in October of last year, before she left. That's a huge accusation. And it completely changes the way we look at what's happening inside this group. Her lawyer even went on to say that this is a case involving a child or adolescent idol, which makes it even more disturbing. The complaint has been officially filed under the Child and Adolescent Sexual Protection Act, which means this is now a legal case, not just a scandal. Now, of course, 143 Entertainment responded by denying the claims. They said Gaeun's version of events contains many parts that are different from the truth, and that the investigation is ongoing. They promise to correct the distorted parts. But still, when something this serious is going on inside, a company, and then another member by, in this case, Suhye, suddenly takes a break with no details. It's really hard not to connect the dots. I'm not saying Suhye is leaving or that she was involved in the same situation as Gaeun. We don't know that. But I am saying this is starting to look like a pattern, and it's giving fans a reason to worry. Let's also remember, Madyne only debuted in September of last year. That's less than a year ago. They started off with so much potential, especially with former Kep1er members Mashiro and Yeseo in the lineup. People were really rooting for them, expecting them to shine in the 4th gen scene. But since debut, it's been rocky. First, Gaeun left. Now Suhye is stepping back. That's 2 members out of 7 either gone or inactive, and we're still not even a full year into their debut. For a rookie group, this is critical time. This is when they're supposed to be building their identity, gaining momentum, connecting with fans, and instead, they're facing back-to-back internal issues. So here's my question to you all. What do you think is really going on behind the scenes at 143 Entertainment? Do you believe the official statements? Or do you think there's more going on that we haven't been told yet? Also, what's your take on how the agency has handled both Gaeun's situation and now Suhye's hiatus? Personally, I think the vague wording and lack of transparency just makes fans even more anxious. Like, if you really care about your artists and their fans, wouldn't you want to be more upfront, even just to reassure people? And to the Madyne fans, how are you feeling right now? Are you still holding on hope that the group can pull through this? Or do you think this could be the beginning of a bigger fallout? I'm really curious about your thoughts on all this because this isn't just about one member taking a break. This could be the sign of something much deeper happening inside this company, and it's raising a lot of red flags. We still have more to unpack, especially how this could affect Madyne's future and the reputation of 143 Entertainment as a whole. So don't go anywhere. Let's keep digging. Let's zoom out a bit and talk about 143 Entertainment itself. This isn't a major company like SM, JYP, or YG. It's a smaller agency that's still working on building credibility and trust in the industry. And that's why situations like this can either make or break them. Now think about it. If 2 members from the same girl group are either withdrawing or going on hiatus in the span of just a few months, people are going to wonder, is this really just personal issues? Or is there something happening behind closed doors that we're not seeing? With Gaeun's accusation, let's be real, it shocked a lot of fans. A press conference? With a lawyer? Accusing the CEO of something as serious as sexual harassment of a minor? That's not something anyone takes lightly. And while 143 Entertainment did respond, their statement honestly felt evasive. They didn't deny everything, just said parts of her story were distorted. That kind of vague denial doesn't really build trust, especially when the public is already skeptical. And now Suhye is stepping back. The timing couldn't be worse. It's hard not to feel like we're watching this group slowly unravel before they even get a chance to grow. But here's the heartbreaking part. It's the idols who suffer the most. Not the company, not the CEO. It's the young women who came into this industry with dreams. Suhye debuted in Madyne just last year. She probably trained for years, worked hard every day, and finally got her shot. But now, instead of promoting, building a fan base, or performing on stage, she's stepping back due to personal reasons. And let's be honest, we've all seen that phrase before. It often means the idol is mentally and emotionally overwhelmed. Or worse, they've been through something they can't talk about publicly. And that's what I want to touch on next. The mental health and emotional toll all of this can take on idols. The pressure to smile for the camera, post for fans, promote a group that might be falling apart behind the scenes. That's exhausting. Especially if you're dealing with trauma or fear or just pure confusion about what's happening in your company. Can you imagine being in Suhye's shoes right now? Watching a fellow member go public with such heavy accusations, then having to decide whether to keep going or take a break, that can't be easy. And the scary part is she's probably not even allowed to speak openly about it. Agencies often control the narrative completely, so idols are left with statements that don't say much and fans who are left guessing. And fans, you guys, are doing your best to fill in the blanks. You're analyzing statements, piecing together timelines, looking at past clips, trying to see if there were signs. But the truth is, we shouldn't have to do this detective work. Agencies should be transparent when something this serious is happening. They owe it to the idols, and they owe it to the fans who support them. So here's what I want to ask you directly. Do you think Suhye will return to the group? Or is this the beginning of another silent exit, like what happened with Gaeun? Do you think the group can survive if more members continue to step away? And what do you think companies should do in situations like this? Should they release more honest statements? Should they let idols speak for themselves? Should there be more protections in place so idols feel safe and heard, especially when serious allegations are being investigated? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know what the fandom and the broader K-pop community thinks about this. This situation could be a turning point, not just for Madyne, but for how we talk about accountability in K-pop. Also, let's be mindful and respectful when talking about Suhye and Gaeun. Whatever's going on, they're human beings first. This is a tough situation, and they deserve empathy and space to heal. At the end of the day, I hope Suhye gets the rest she needs. Whether she returns to Madyne or decides to walk a different path, she deserves support, not just from her company, but from all of us who follow this industry. And to 143 Entertainment, if you're watching, transparency matters. Accountability matters. Your idols deserve better, fans deserve better. And if you want to build a strong foundation for your artists, that has to start with trust. All right, Buzz fam, that wraps up today's deep dive. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next discussion. I'll be reading through your comments, replying, and featuring some of your thoughts in the next video, so don't hold back. This has been Anyong Buzz, where we don't just report the news, we talk about what really matters. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.